is changing your look.
Okay.
It's changing the dynamics of how your body is shaped. And it's the same thing for us in our mental health, based on how someone has touched our lives, it's based on how someone has impacted us.
Okay.
And a lot of times, parents or people in our close proximity impact us and cause us to be formed, and in some cases, deformed
Okay.
in how we are as a person. And this is what I believe this whole series is about, is sometimes recognizing that there's a deformity in me.
Yeah.
That this is not the way I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be so angry, so easily offended. I'm not supposed to be so sensitive to the point that no one can talk to me, or because that may be you've been touched wrong, and now you just need to be ministered to cause that deformity where you're open to people, especially people who love you.
Yeah.
You're open to touch, because sometimes when you've been touched wrong, any touch is a bad touch.
Okay.
And so you don't want anybody to touch you. And so that happens to us with our children. And we were talking about, we had our grandkids on the platform, and they were talking about this bullying situation. Now, for me, I am really bothered by the bullying situation.
Well, it's been an ongoing. It's a pandemic, so
In its own
way, and this goes before COVID. COVID has just been a reality of what's always been happening. But a child's ability to cope is a lot different than an adult.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is they learn to cope young to cope old, meaning they're practicing coping with stuff that they shouldn't even cope with because it shouldn't be a part of their process, a part of their life. But unfortunately, where we live in, things happen. But let's define the word mental health. If you read that for us in entirety.
It is a state of emotional and psychological well-being in which an individual is able to use his or her cognitive and emotional capabilities, function in society, and meet the ordinary demands of everyday life.
And part 2 says that person overall emotional and psychological condition.
Right.
Overall psychological condition.
Right.
It's like going to the gym. We go to the gym to better ourselves. Those that are trying to lose weight, or those that are trying to, change a life health plan. From vegan to what other type of health plan they do, dieting.
Daniel Fast.
Okay, you need to stop that.
We stop.
Now you messing with my mental health.
Okay.
But it's like a life change.
It's our mindset, our way of thinking.
Way of thinking.
Right.
So we do things to feel better, to do better. But the reason you do better because there was time you was good and now you're not good, so you got to do something to be back good. Well, you was good going to the gym, and then when COVID hit, it's changed the gym opportunity, so you had to get back into the gym, which affected the normal operation. So when you talk about the mental health of children, as a kid, I think I had a pretty good childhood life. I mean, I was able to be a child. I was able to be a kid, fun and hard, fun and reality. I didn't have to babysit my brothers, my sister, I'm the baby of the family.
Right.
But I wasn't left home and had to take on certain responsibilities. I was able to be a child. So my mental health as a child was kind of good, but then it was also interrupted with situations that affected my mental health.
Right.
That even to this day, I still have to adjust and to come to some type of reason with myself.
And also sometimes what we consider as mental healthiness, because we have been impacted incorrectly, we think it's normal, so we think that's healthy thinking.
Okay, good stuff.
Or that's healthy mindset. When in actuality, it may very well be a very twisted view or a very twisted mindset or way of thinking. Because it just depends on, what you were brought up in, how you were, impacted, how you were taught, trained, developed. The Bible tells us to train up our children in the way they should go, not the way we want them to go.
Yeah.
I think that's where we fall off at. We say, we ought to train them up the way I want them. They're going to do, but what the Bible says, train them up in the way that they should go, ought to go.
Toward Him.
That's right,
Toward
ought
God.
to go.
Yeah.
That's the right way, and so when we don't do it that way, we got to know we missed a step somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I know in my raising of my children, I know I missed a few steps, quite a few steps. But to think that when you miss the step, that it somehow will not raise its head down the road later, it will. It'll show. It's just like baking a cake. When you bake a cake and you miss that step, you can taste it when you bite it. Oh yeah, I should have done this or that. You know, you can taste the difference. There's been something altered in the recipe or the way that it was supposed to be done because you missed a step somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with our children. We sometimes when we're raising them, we miss a step, and down the road it raises its head and it shows. And so this is like I said, sometimes we think mental health is healthy, but to the mind that's been twisted or the mind that's been deformed, it's not healthy.
You know, I'm glad you said that like that way because as I look back, there was a lot of deformity.
Yeah.
But because it was occupied with toys and activities, I didn't. It's like you're numb to what's going
Right,
on.
right.
But the chaos is around you.
Right. The chaos is there.
Yeah. So even though in my mind I had a great childhood life, but the more I think about it, Lord help me. There was some challenges there.
That's it.
Because money, the Bible answers all things, but it doesn't change all things. It answers, but it doesn't change everything. Because if it changed everything, then nobody would die of cancer. No one would die of any type of sickness because money would change that. But it assists in those things. So you can have the best of the best, and yet your mental health not be the best it needs to be.
Right, right.
You know, and from Sunday we talked about the children, and I have to admit I was very emotional at some point of the message because I could see the reality of what our grandkids was expressing, what Kendall was expressing. You know, going back to school after 2 years, all these people, you know, all these people
Looking at me, yeah, that bothered her.
That bothered her.
But you know, I think what all of us can relate to when we hear children talk is we can relate because we have been a child once.
Yes.
And so that's why I think sometimes when we hear the tragedy in that of children and what's happening to children, we are so hurt.
Yeah.
Because we were once a child and we remember sometimes even the same hurt.
Yeah.
And how devastating it was for us. And so in our minds, it almost is a trigger. I know sometimes bullying for me is a trigger.
Yeah.
When I hear kids are being bullied or kids are being picked on or ridiculed for things that they can't help, like, you know, their looks or their texture of hair or their, you know, the economic status, they have no control over that. But for some reason they are made to feel responsible for that or made to feel low or little because of that. It's a trigger for me. And so immediately, you know, I'm like, I want to put on I want to run in and put on my cape. I want to come out. I want to be the age of whatever this child that needs to be taught a class on. Don't do this. This is not very nice, and this is why you need not do this. I want to give a class on, you know, because and this is another point that I want to make. When it comes down to the impact of mental health for a child in this series, in this particular part, because it's a lifetime sentence.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we experience as children goes with us the rest of our life. Whereas if you have a trauma at 30 and you pretty good stretch before that, you had 30 good years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if it happens as a child, that's something. If you get to be 100 years old, that it goes all through those years and carries with you for the rest of your life. And so that's why I think I'm just an advocate when it comes down to children's mental health and their psyche not being bothered, their self-esteem and self-awareness of who they are not be touched by the twisted views or the twistedness of someone else, either the adult or child, because it's a lifetime. It takes one moment to happen and a lifetime to shed it. You know, a lifetime of trying to shake that feeling of inadequacy off, or that lifetime of trying to shake that I'm not a good enough person. I'm not, you know, I'm less than. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I think this new thing out now, the kids call each other losers.
Oh, wow.
I don't even understand how we get to that point. But you know, I think that when we hear kids make these type of statements, and even sometimes kids say that to each other as kids and
Yeah.
play,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that that's conversation things that need to be had when it comes down to bullying. Children need to understand by adults'
Yeah.
input that this is just too heavy of a weight for you to do to someone.
And as a parent, if you know your child has the tendency to be a bully, you should
Check it.
step in on that, because that is a life painful situation for that child that experienced enough. Those that have been bullied or those that have been the bully. And most times the bully has been bullied is why he's
Right.
bullying
Right.
others, because he don't want to be bullied no more. So he want to stand out to be the one that doesn't have to go through that impact
Right.
or the imprint of being mistreated,
Right.
talked about, talked down. Because a child development as a child is constant development. They're
Right.
constantly evolving. So when it's happening in that child's life now that doesn't get the proper care, the proper assistance, they grow up in their teenage state of life, and then from teenage go to the young adult, from young adult to the adult, to for you're a senior, a seasoned senior in life, and you have not resolved what traumatized
Right.
that mental health
Right.
that was good.
Right.
And I want to really emphasize how important it is that we get back to the mental health status.
Right.
But then you can't get the mental health status.
You
right
got to deal
till
with
you
the
deal-
stuff. And T said this
Yeah,
right. Some
okay.
parents think that their child bullying another child is cute.
Yeah, it's far from it.
And it's and it's far from cute. And T's, I know her response is because we understand that, we remember that. You know, I can recall actual adults around during the time where I was being ridiculed
Okay,
without intervention. And so, for whatever reason, sometimes we think, well, that's not my child, so I don't have anything to say. I'm not that adult.
No.
I'm not that one. I'm the one that will put it in reverse. Well, why are you? Hey, what are you doing?
I've witnessed that. Yeah, let's keep going. We got to get
I'm that one that will put it in reverse.
That is the role of an advocate.
Yes.
You advocate for a person who can't advocate for themselves.
Yes.
So, again, we have to come to some type of a happy medium and figuring out what can we do as a church. What can we evolve ourselves in to make things better for a child or adult. Anyone that's facing these mental health challenges that impact your mental health, we want to help.
Right.
We're willing to get all the resources
Right.
that's available, but sometimes it's just having these type of dialogue. It's talking about my past and what I've been through, and
Right.
how everybody look at me and say, well, you seem to be normal function, but you don't know what I've been through.
Right.
You don't know my oil.
Right. Anyway, the point is that I think it is our responsibility. Mm-hmm. It is our responsibility and our God-given right
Yes.
to intervene in these situations where children are being attacked. And I'll call it an attack because ultimately down the road, they are beat up mentally when they are bullied.
Yeah.
Because of what a bully does is he strips you of your self-esteem,
self-worth, yeah.
of your confidence. You start questioning yourself, your abilities, and Lord knows if he's a physical bully, then he because I remember there was, I think it was my brother, one of my brothers, one bully used to take his money. They always take his money. Every time you saw him, he had to empty his pockets or something like that, or take and give him his money or whatever. But I've actually witnessed that. JR, our son, went to school and every day for a short period until he,
Told.
had the fivefold ministry come on him. But this young man every day came in and literally slapped him across his face with his whole might. And to the point where JR just came in and just said, let me just get the slap so I can just, get on with my day. And then one day, he just said, enough is enough. And he ended it by, kind of dusting the furniture off with the little boy's little outfit. But, ultimately got down to where he had to become like what he didn't like in order to survive. In order to get this thing up off him. And so even to this day, that's just one of our things that we don't really I don't really take a lot of heat on. I don't really like to see children bullied, and I think that it carries too long. It carried on me too long.
Because if you're bullied as a child or being the bully, you become an adult bully. In a way.
You can.
You can. I was thinking about this video that's on YouTube, Facebook, by this preacher, basically bullying his parishioners about a Sam's watch that he just thought he deserved. You know. Now we may laugh about that, but that's affecting faith-based people mental health. That they feel they got to go out and buy him this watch he could buy himself. But that's just part of childhood development.
And just think about it. Even our children nowadays, another part of their mental psyche is that they don't have the latest fashion.
Yeah.
They don't have name brands. Then somehow or another, they're less than the children who do. To the point that kids will steal, rob, and harm to have these items to prove to the world that they're worth something. And if that's not an impact on their mental health, I don't know what is. If that our children can't, because it's not just a new thing. Because I remember we were, terrorized about not having, pro kids and kids. Remember that? Pro kids and kids or all stars or whatever. We had what they call skips.
Oh, wow. Skips and tulip? I'm sorry.
T, come get your brother-in-law. But we used to have something, they used to call them skips, and they would say, and it had a whole little song about it. I remember they had a whole little song.
About y'all shoes?
About anybody who wore skips.
Okay.
And I hate to sing it, but.
It must be the northern thing. It ain't in the south.
I don't know. Is it a northern thing? T, is it a northern thing? T says sometimes bullies are being bullied because they can't beat the person bullying them. They bully other people. That's absolutely positively correct. They may be at home being bullied by a parent or an adult at home or another older sibling or family member or even just someone else that's out. They may be being bullied at home, and so their frustration, they come and they take it out on someone that they know is not a threat to them.
That's what our subtitle of this series is, of dealing with children. What are you pouring into your children as a parent? Parents, we have a full obligation along with responsibility to make sure we don't abuse our children verbally, physical threat, and sometimes we can threaten them with our looks. That can be abusive. Right.
Because what we do when we actually bully our children, we let them know that it's okay for them to be bullied. So not only can I bully you, but when somebody in the street come up at you, they can bully you too. We take their confidence from them. We take their ability to stand up for themselves. And with parenting, there's a line between discipline and abuse. And when we take it over the line of a discipline to abuse and become a bully to our children, then we have told them that you have to take this. And then we go, someone in the streets come up to them in the same manner. They feel like they have to dumb down in order to survive as well. So we teach our children a lot of things in their mental psyche that carries to them a long time. And sometimes it takes years, decades, for them to be stripped of this mindset to have what we call healthy thinking. Healthy thinking and healthy mind. And if we don't, my thing is, as a child, when you see it happening, we have to jump on the bandwagon and do something about it. Because this is the beginning. Before we can have healthy mothers and healthy fathers, we have to have healthy children. We have to have children with mindset, so when they grow up, they become what we call healthy, productive citizens. So
let's read Proverbs 29, verse 15, Amplified. It says, "The rod and reproof, which is godly instruction, give wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother." I really want to just deal with the rod and reproof, and that is the discipline that comes from a parent to a child. But that discipline, if it's not done appropriately, and God knows with respect and fairness, that child would be damaged for life.
Right.
Sometimes as a parent, we have to be very careful not to take our own going through, our own personal frustration and place it on that child. That affects their mental psyche. Now they're struggling. Now, You know, they wanted, you know, if you when dad come home, how he looking? They got to see what the temperature's like.
Got to check your temperature
Yeah.
before whether or not they can
Speak.
approach you or
Yeah.
anything like that. That's a tough place to be for a kid.
Yeah.
To have to see if mom and dad will
Again.
harm me
Yes.
before I can even say something to you. I got to check and see, are you approachable? You know, and to me, that's a sad place. That scripture that you're using, the reproof part, it said after that, godly wisdom, after that word, in the Amplified Version.
Yes.
It says the rod and the reproof,
Godly,
the godly instructions.
give wisdom.
You know, the rod and godly instructions. See, you can't have a rod and no godly instructions. If you're just beating on a child, just to beat on a child, that's not going to help them become anything but a battered animal, a battered person, and they're going to end up probably doing the same thing or allowing someone else to batter them in that way. The rod or the physical part of discipline, it should always have already been superseded by godly instructions.
Now, while we're having this dialogue, discussion, we're allowing you to ask a question, make a comment.
Yeah.
If you desire to come on with us for a few minutes to talk with us,
Right.
Just go ahead and what do you do? Go ahead and do
Just
it.
go ahead and ask to be
Ask to come,
added,
add
brought on.
to brought on.
Right.
And we want to hear what you have to say,
Right.
because your testimony is the reality as an adult, and maybe a child out there.
Right.
You know,
Maybe a child.
you want to say something, because we want to really, in this series, because the holidays are coming, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, where people mental health is going to be challenged. You know, we still in a pandemic, from COVID, now monkeypox, and we don't know what's down the road. So there's a whole lot going on, but no one's addressing these issues from the platform of the pulpit.
Right.
You know,
We're trying to go back to being normal
and the
without
noise,
dealing with, first of all, we had mental issues prior to going in.
Yes.
And then inside of the pandemic, when we were all locked away, those things kind of mushroomed. And those things kind of became bigger than life. And so then now we are dealing with these situations or these issues now that haven't been dealt with, that's been tucked away and packed away, and now mushrooming. Then we take that and send that back out into the wide open and say, okay, now be normal. It absolutely makes
it doesn't work.
So many children suffered at the hands of other adults during the pandemic. So many children. The school used to be the safe place. The school was the safe place for some kids. The school was the place they got a meal. The school was the place they could hear a kind voice. The school was the place they didn't have to worry about being hit by an adult. That used to be a safe place. And then some kids at home were 24/7 locked down with their abuser.
Wow, yeah.
And we didn't understand that. And then when they come back to school, we don't understand why this child acting out. But this child is probably at the brink. You know, this child is at a breaking point now, and needs really need a hug, and some love, and somebody to tell them that, you know, let me help you to a safe place. But when we see a child acting out, a lot of times we don't know what to do with that. We automatically label them as a bad child. And but sometimes that's what they are. They're troubled children that need some mental intervention.
You know, I recall
mental health intervention.
when our daughter, Dee Porter, prior to return, would share with us some of the dynamics she had to deal with. And then I hear my daughter, Tiff, Sister Bettis, me, Tammy, who are part of our ministry, and you can hear some of the horror stories.
Right. Really need a hug and some love.
Impacted
right
by something.
Right. And we think that I know I was always, as a child, and this was just the way it was. It just wasn't, there's no throw off to my mom or anything like that. But just children were to be seen and not heard. children, get somewhere and sit down, get out of grown folk place, stay in child's place.
So when they live with that plastic furniture.
Yeah, don't talk back to adults. Whatever adults said was true and right. And so we were taught a different, a way that was very detrimental to us as children. And today's society, our children are still experiencing that type of mindset where people have a tendency to think children don't have a mind. Like they don't have a say, they don't have feelings. They're just our little Tonka toy, our little doll baby that we get to just play with when we want to, set it to the side when we don't. In actuality, this is a whole human being with feelings, with a heart, with soul, with mind, with pains and hurts, and we gotta hear them. We gotta listen, because and most of the time, a lot of us are twisted and deformed because we weren't heard.
Yeah.
And then we turn around and instead of giving ear or lending ear, we silence the children again and tell them, be quiet, don't worry about that. No, that's what's so important for us to have conversation, and I always say food is a good place for kids. When you want to get out of children something, just put some food in front of them. You want to hear what your children going through, put some food on the table.
And with technology being the way it is, a lot of kids have been
cyberbullied.
And we, with our grandson being bullied on his phone with some
young female,
young family members, as well as
I had to
call
say.
like it is,
and friends.
And friends. And so we had to step up to the bat. Son, no, don't do that. Don't.
And I get on the phone with the young ladies, and I try to encourage them. If you're gonna be friends, be friends. And if you're gonna be family. But you're not gonna call his phone and insult him, call him names. And just because he's that kind of a person, he's a kind-hearted person. He's a very giving person, very forgiving person. That he's not gonna now be your punching bag, so that you can get off and just treat him any kind of way. So I kind of gave a little class, in trying to get them to be better at being a friend or a family member. And I know it just mortified our grandson Micah, but I also, in the same realm, after I got the phone, I talked to him and let him know that these are the signs and these are the things that tell you whether or not this is a person that's good for you or not. You have to be able to recognize when a person's not good for you. And then you have to be able to be okay with that person not being in your life.
My daughter Amisha said that's a great resource. She put it in there. Amisha, if you'd like to come on, you're welcome to. I'm going to see can I bring you on. If you want to come on, you can. And talk with us briefly so people can hear you from a perspective in the social work as far as an educator. She went from being a social worker to educator, and she's very passionate about it. That's why it's important to celebrate and appreciate our teachers who are doing that type of labor, who really care about the children. So if you'd like to come on, please do so.
If not, then she has on there in our feed, the resource is there for you to just tap on, and you can actually go to that resource. But all of the resources, I always say, are wonderful, wonderful things. But if we don't utilize the resources, 9 times out of 10, the bully ain't going to the resources.
Yeah, sure.
You see what I'm saying?
No, you're not.
It's just good and I think one time I made a challenge to the school board, because they said we have all these resources, and it's always right. The library is full of books, but we got a lot of kids who can't read.
Yeah.
Sometimes resources is not the key. Sometimes we have to have hands-on.
Yeah.
We have to in our presence, and I know Amitris is an advocate for that. She's an awesome teacher and an awesome mentor. And so the resources are here. Please tap in and utilize them. Recognize, you may recognize your child in there as a bully. Sometimes we got to remember that our little Johnny or our little Sue is the issue.
I think somebody trying to come on.
Is somebody trying to come in?
Yeah, it's on the phone.
On the phone over here.
He'll take it.
You did get a chance to
I
see.
apologize. I see someone trying to come on. Bear with
We
us.
see you trying to come on, but I think we tapping on our phone over here.
Yeah.
We should be tapping on up there.
Yeah.
It's a request up there.
Okay, Lawanda. Okay. Someone else.
I think it was one. I think she had two of this. It was two of the same in there. But
So Lorna, if you want to come on, go ahead and come on in. Come on in.
Come on in.
We're waiting for you.
Yeah.
So send the request again, and then so we can bring you in. But meantime, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I was saying that resources are great things, but until we tap into actually doing it, it's adding now. It's trying to set it up. That is just that. It's just paper or a book in the library. But a lot of times we have to actually put our hands on, and it starts with us in every situation. I don't know.
I'm gonna go out.
You want me to go out too?
You go out too.
Okay, let's see if that did it. But I don't know. It could be, if she's at home, that could be their connection out there, way out there that could be doing it.
Yeah.
But
okay. Well, anyway, you can always there it goes. Try it again. It was Shonda. I remember. Hit her.
No, that's just the viewers.
No, she did the question said cool.
No, that's the one. LaShonda up there. Yes. But anyway, I would thought if you can't get on, just do us a favor and go ahead and put your thought in our feed, and then we'll try to bring you on. At least your question. Okay, at least your question in, so that we can talk about it. Our topic is.
There you go. All right, who do we have here?
It's LaShonda.
It's LaShonda. Okay.
How y'all doing? Thank y'all for this topic. I just wanted to say that I did schooling for early childhood development, and the main thing that stuck out to me was that from birth to the age of 5, that everything that the child is around, that everything that they experience during that time, that by the time they turn age 5, that's who that child is going to be.
Hey, darling, we can hear you. Can you talk a little bit louder? It's not coming through the way we need it. But we're going to hook up a mic so we can hear.
Yeah, and I think I'm completely out. Okay. I'm thinking that it might be because normally what people do with these, when they do these live, they normally put the earpieces in.
Okay, so that'll help.
This time, so we may be just missing you from the volume because we don't have our earpieces in for that.
Okay, y'all know I'm a little soft spoken anyway. I don't like to really talk loud. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, with the.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna try to have it better next week.
Yeah.
When we get
can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, sweetheart. Say again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Now.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. What I was saying was I studied early childhood development for 2 years, and what they say is from birth to age 5, everything that you're around and everything that you come in contact with, it will form who you are. By the age 5, that's who you'll be as an adult until you as an adult decide or you realize that there's something that you want to change, and then that's when you get to try to do that as an adult. And I know that y'all will be able to discuss that when you talk about the adult help, but I thought that was important for people to know that so anyone in our church or anyone that we might come across, that's how we can be a more positive influence to them, because kids are very impressionable. So even if they're not getting it from home or other family members, if you're just that one person that can give them that, then it will impact them, and sometimes they'll be able to like hone in on those. I believe I had to do the internship in the daycare centers, so it's a lot of kids that aren't getting love at home, that are not being taught about Christ. And so me being a Christian, I do my best to show my love to them and kind of like softly correct them, because I'm not the parent, but in the most professional way that you could. And I would like to say that I used that on my children. I started the schooling when I was pregnant with my first son, and everything was just so intriguing to me to the point that I just started using little things on them. Like, it's kind of it is psychological. Like, instead of telling a child no, you will tell them, let's do this instead. You know, giving them a choice while they're young, because as an adult we have to make choices. You know, how the word no really affects a child. Like, because they'll grow up hearing no, and they'll feel no. But I mean, we have choices in life. That's just something a little simple that I just wanted to share. And they'll feel no, but I mean, we have choices in life. That's just something a little simple that I just wanted to share.
Okay.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
we appreciate that, and I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Kill it. Yeah. We have a little bit of a lag because the feed live and then what's coming through when we can hear it. There's a little bit of a lag, so we were getting it on the tail end. But LaShonda, thank you for coming on, and we're gonna go ahead and let you go out now. Yeah, and but she's absolutely right. That those formative years up until age 5, they matter big time. And we got to be so mindful in those time frames, in that little window of who is impressing upon our children, and who we're allowing to put their fingerprint on them, and because it is a lifetime thing that that person has on them. Yeah, for sure. Who's coming on now?
I think Lawanda's trying to come on.
Okay.
But until she come on, we'll just keep on talking. Again, this whole series is going to be such eye-opening for all of us. I dare to say we're going to go as far as we can to bring resources to us, make sure that we have the right information. You know, and I appreciate the professional side of it, but I also value the spiritual component because the enemy coming out to steal, kill, and destroy.
Right.
You know, all the resources in the world can be available,
right.
but they're not accessible. It's still no good to us.
Or if the parents are not utilizing it. Sometimes, like we say, the Bible. Some people reading our lives is the only Bible that they'll ever have. Well, the same thing with the resources as well. Sometimes what we display are the only resources, and hopefully these resources are biblically based.
Yes.
You know, we got to be careful about that too. We got to make sure that when people advising us about, you know, when it comes down to our children and how we are to make sure that their mental capacity is good, that we are allowing them to be biblically based. You know, because sometimes the world's view on what our children are entitled to sometimes is a little twisted. It's a little offbeat, and they let them make too many decisions. But the Word of God says that we ought to train them up in the way they should go, and not let a child come up with their own training.
Yeah. You know, me and my friend Pastor Dr. Outley, we was talking today. We've been talking a couple of weeks, and she's having that feel of dealing with mental health, and it's just something that the church has to deal with. We have to address this subject matter, and I thought I thank God for giving us to start with the children because they are so precious, so valuable. Because what they are today, based on what they've been given, will be what they are tomorrow. You know, I was saying you're a byproduct of your environment. That is so true. But you can alter that environment by getting out of that environment. But unless you know how, everything that's been imprinted on you is something that has to be worked out of you.
Yeah, and that's the part that we're talking about with children now. Unfortunately, what we got to start looking at children from a Christian perspective. This is to all the believers. I want y'all to hear me real clear on this one. We got to start looking at children as God's little souls.
Yes.
Their souls are no less valuable to Him than an adult, and we got to start looking at them as the future. What God is going to do in the earth for the future.
Yes.
And what are we putting? What part are we playing on making sure that our children are prepared to run in this thing we call our faith? And so this is what we got to do. We can't let our children get bent and twisted that they spend more time trying to get untwisted as opposed to hitting the ground running. And so preventive is a lot better than fixing. I'm a proactive. I like to be proactive. In other words, I want to go put the lid on the milk before we have to go clean up the milk that's been spilled. I don't want to do this clean up part. I'd rather just put the lid on there. So I'm watching it. This is how we do our children. I'm good. I'm watching it. I'm making sure it's good. No, just put the lid on. Don't work. Don't try to come back later and say, "Well, I should put the lid on." Now the milk is spilled. Yeah. You know, I have some very hard lessons on just should have put the lid on, as opposed to thinking that we good. I'll be able to work around the milk jug and it won't get knocked over.
You know, and I'm glad that our daughter Avis Pye said it's also important for us to acknowledge the things we did that affected our children negatively and repent to them so healing can take place. Yes, parents, we all need to repent to our children. If we've done things to them that has impacted them, and we all have. Yeah. Out of ignorance, out of frustration, out of desperation, if no more than, you know, God forbid these things happen, you choose a man of your child, or a man choose a woman of his children. You have to keep that thing in order, because the enemy will use things in the home to frustrate you, that your children suffer at the hand of that.
Or if you just whip your child out of frustration. We had to go back and say we were sorry. Yeah. You know, I was wrong. I told my daughter many times, you know, that I popped her, you know, in her face, in her mouth, because, you know. But now thinking about it now, how horrible! That was just not the thing to do. There was just so many other ways to deal with it. With her, what I felt like she was being sassy in the mouth. But now I look back now, I'm horrified by that. And I've said that to her in a private manner, and now publicly, that just wasn't the way. Like when Dad is talking about it, you know, and I mean the whole time I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. But you know, what we do is we feel like because we're frustrated, we're in a bad situation, we feel justified. There's no justification. We're not justified because we were in a bad situation to take our frustration out on our children, and it's just not a good thing. And when we do, we can't feel like, well, I was just in a bad place. No. That's the cover-all answer to our children, and they're supposed to say, okay, oh yeah, Mom, Dad, you was in a bad place. Okay, I understand why you bust me in my head. No, we gotta say we're sorry, and it was wrong. Not just I'm sorry, it was wrong. I shouldn't have done it, and be okay with that. Telling your children, you know, so many things I can't.
And I think that's why as grandparents, as they say, it's a second chance.
It is
to do what should have been done the right way.
Right.
And then they kids are like, you ain't do it like that. You use it to the cows.
Right. But we have more wisdom now.
So don't wait to get more wisdom while you're young. Operate with the wisdom, because as a young parent, you can be an awesome parent. I have to, you know, my daughter Buntae, I always give her credit because Buntae was that young mother that would get with her kids and to teach them and kind of work with them. And I think all our kids do that. But you know, sometimes a person stands out how they interact with their kids. But then even in interact with your kids, you got to make sure you don't interact with them with selfishness, meaning don't give them the negative of what they need, but the positive what they need. Or make sure the Bible says train them the way they should go. That means, again, scripture means interpretation, the way to go toward him with wisdom. Right. Because we don't want kids to continue to repeat history. It's a generational cycle. You know, nobody's getting off the merry-go-round. At some point, we all need to stop being dizzy. Somebody needs to say, man, this ain't working, and do something different. The only way you can do something different is you have to go back as a parent and look at it. Now, if things were done the way it wasn't supposed to be done, you make it right, then you can move on.
And then a lot of parents, you know, before we came to Christ, we did a lot of things before our children that were ungodly. Yeah. We did ungodly things before our children, call ourselves having a good time. Yeah. You know, this mean I'm having a good time, I'm enjoying my life. But we did it out in the forefront of our children, and we affected them. Yeah, it affected them. Yeah. You know, some things that we've done in that they witnessed, and then we wonder where they get that from. Us. Yeah. They got it from us. But we have to go back and say, just like I said, we have to go back and label it. Go back and say that was wrong. Boom, that's a label. I shouldn't have done that. Boom, that's a label.
Yeah.
You know, I was supposed to boom. I should have had a better bedtime hour for y'all so y'all would be not tired in the morning when you get up from school. Get up for school. You know, there's some things that we have to own as parents. That when it comes down to our children and what they have been impressed upon them, that now when they're walking it out, we got to say, okay, this has been a problem. And Demetrius made a little part here. She says she's learning to teach kids healthy ways to disagree and resolve conflicts. Yes. That they should be able to express themselves in a proper way. You know, in other words, when kids have problems, if they see us adults, this me and you, we constantly fuss and fight. Yeah. When we disagree, we fuss and fight. You know, we hit each other and all this. Well, when the kids look around and we see them over there, that's what they doing. Right. Don't go over there whipping talk. Why y'all fussing and fight? Wait, fussing and fighting because that's what y'all do. That's what they think is normal. They think when you don't agree, you get to cuss, fuss, and hit on each other.
But for the sake of time, I want to give a few ways to help protect your child. Okay. This came off my daughter Nita sent tips. I didn't do this. This is the society says it. Number one, listen first, then talk. That's a key factor in dealing with children mental health. Listen first, then talk. In other words, allow them to say what they need to say at their level. Right. And then you give your interjection. Right.
One of the ones that I noticed right off the rip, and I'm big on this. Okay. Is love your child unconditionally. In other words, there's nothing they can do to stop you from loving them. My kids are grown, and I practice that. Like, if I'm not in agreement with something that my grown children are doing, they don't have to worry, does mom love me? Is she going to cast me aside? I'm not.
And Pop, as we call this out, when you put it inside the, what do you call that?
In the feed.
In the feed.
Yeah, in the comment section.
The first one was, listen first, then talk. Mom said, love your child unconditionally. That should be nothing that child does or have done that you can't love them unconditionally. Don't mean you go along with their foolishness.
And then the other thing is this: you can't look unconditionally love means that once you have done and dealt with it, you're not mad no more.
Yeah.
You can't be mad at the child for 1,000 days talking about I love you. No, deal with the situation and continue on. After that, it's a wrap. Yeah. Be done with it.
Number 3, encourage your children to talk about their feelings and validate their feelings. Again, encourage your children to talk about their feelings and validate their feelings. Yes, ma'am.
My one I love is ask your child about their daily routine. Talk to your children. Find out what has happened in their day. Let them be able to express to you. You grown, you can take it to the side and decipher what needs to be, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you want to hear it.
Yes. This is very important, especially coming into church. Teach good sleep habits. Back in the day when I came to church, we would be there from Sunday to Sunday. And you wonder when the kids are failing. Their mental health is being impacted because they're up all night. Now, that's the church. Now, since COVID hit, some of those parents have allowed their kids to be up all throughout the night. Then the next day they wake up, they're tired. Whether they go to sleep at church or when they go to school to go to sleep, it's because they're not getting that proper sleep. And without the proper sleep, it will impact their mental health because they won't be able to keep up with the class. They won't be able to keep up with the assignment. So make sure that you give your children the proper sleep habits.
Right. Another one is model positive self-care. Like, you have to demonstrate what positive self-care looks like in order for your child to now mimic that and won't repeat where they don't take care of themselves and make sure that they're good to go. You have to model it first.
Yeah. One is this is let children be independent when possible. Now think about it. In the mental health component of this, you're giving them some liberty there, some freedom there. Now I'm not talking about freedom to do some stuff that can get them in trouble, but make sure you train them about independence, such as he's been trained how to take a proper shower. She's been trained how to proper shower herself as a young girl, because that should at some point be lead to independence when they can do it on their own.
Right.
But if you just throw them in the bathtub and you go about your business, most kids gonna do like they let the water run around them and come out and why you still driving?
J.R. Anderson, when you was a little boy.
Talking about motion split the Red Sea. No, you ain't in the water.
Yeah, J.R. would just stand in the shower and let the water run over
And his son
like
did the same thing.
across him, not touching him as if he was gonna melt or something. Yeah. I finally had to go in and realize, you know what? He's not in the water.
Yeah,
because my thing is, you know, I thought I was teaching him that, but then after that, we gave him a class that day that I didn't have to give him anymore. After that, he got it. I had to go in there and actually bathe him, Chandler, as a big boy.
And this is a pretty link on the mom. I want you to expound on this too.
When sharing information, be honest with your children at an age-appropriate level.
Please explain that.
Basically, there are some things that may happen, that adult situations that may happen, but you have to be able to explain it to your child and be honest about it. But don't tell your child things that are inappropriate for their age.
Yeah.
Like there's some marital issues. Yeah. You can't sit down and talk about your things with your children from an adult level. You know, there are some things that they may need to know, but what the level is for them is that dad and I, mom and I are working out some things. This has nothing to do with you, though. We still love you. Yeah. And then leave them to themselves. There's other things that they may have been impacted about. Yeah. Financial issues and woes. Don't sit down and tell your children things that are not they can know some things, but at age appropriate. 5-year-olds don't need to know what 12-year-olds know. 12-year-olds don't need to know what 19-year-olds know. There's age appropriate levels that you keep it at, and so you don't sit them down in a group and talk at the same level for everybody. Sometimes you have to break it up and talk to them at the level that they can understand it, and it won't weigh them down.
The next one, assist children with problem solving. My daughter Minister Beatrice was alluding to that one, because children need to be able to sit and reason. As the Bible said, let us come and reason together. That's not only just for adults, but teach your children how to have engaging conversation in a complex moment or a difficult moment. In other words, teach them how to be, more roundabout. But if you high-headed, in a battle, the kid's gonna be that way. So learn to sit with problem solving. Some things that they just don't understand, you have to give them understanding. Everybody, all they get understanding. A child's not gonna understand at age 7 what a 15-year-old should understand. Right. So you gotta keep back to the age appropriate. So when it comes down to problem solving, help them to solve the problem. If you know it's ABC and they keep picking 5 mama and answer 4, don't fuss them. 5, boy, no, just say 5. Yeah. You about to throw them out the window. No, just tell them it's 4 and show them. Then grab them.
How you got there? Yeah, you can't be teaching that. This one here. Yes. Allow.
Oh man.
No. I don't know. Discipline with respect and teaching, not shame.
Read it again.
Discipline with respect and teaching, not shame. We can't shame our children into being better people. Yeah. You have to teach them, and you have to do it with. In other words, you're not trying to break them to get them to understand something.
And don't shame before the kid, like twisting and pinching them in. It's just some things that parents.
Some things we should don't try to shame them in front of their friends like that. Yeah, sometimes it's a private matter. Take it to the private place, and unless they're doing it all in a group. You know me. If y'all all in a group about to do it, I'm about to tell the whole group something.
and then this one, I like this one. It's allow plenty of time for play and fun activity. Yeah, that is important for mental health for a child to be able to go outside, play on the basketball goal, skate around the neighborhood and within your visual, because you don't want the kids just going to time to live in it. But allow plenty of time for that. Allow them to have some time for them. We call it man cave, but kids need kids cave.
They need playtime. They need to woosah. That's how kids woosah. Yeah. And then if you want, your child not to be bouncing off the walls, they need to get out there and expel that energy somewhere. So you got to allow for them to go out, and that's where their creativity comes in. Yes. Sometimes we need to make our children go outside in the backyard with your supervision or whatever and play, because our electronics is really making our children's bodies mush and brains mush. We need to let them have fun and exert some of that energy that y'all be allow them to be pent up in a small space. And tell me why they don't sit down, because they got energy. You feed them 30,000 snacks.
I think, did you cover this one, make time daily to talk with your children?
Yes, I think that we did make mention of that.
Well, okay, let me add this one. It's not on the list, but this one I encourage the World Changes family and all our partners to do this. This week, just when you go to dinner with your family, with your children, everybody put down an electronic device and have dinner. Have a conversation, bless the meal, and then discuss what they're dealing with. Again, meals bring out the best of us. We tell the whole story.
Yeah. And I think the last one on here, I don't know if we did this one, but encourage your children to talk about their feelings. You did that, and validate them. Like, in other words, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling mad, if you're feeling depressed, or if you're feeling anxious, talk with them, overwhelmed. We don't know, for us, we think that's a breeze and a whiz to get, they shouldn't be going through nothing anyway, because all, what their biggest issue is what they're gonna wear. But we don't know what pressures they have coming from school, pressures they have coming from their friends, pressures they have coming from, any other sources. We don't know what they're necessarily dealing with, because kids don't always come out with their feelings. They will hold things. A lot of things I held. My mother was an adult. I was an adult when I talked to my mother about some of the hurts and the pains that I had. And the same thing with my children. Some things I didn't know they were dealing with until they were adults. See, so we hold things sometimes, but in the meantime, we're just a little pressure cooker. And sometimes our feelings, we don't know what to do with them. And as children, kids don't always know what to do with those feelings, but you got to be able to allow them to express them, and then let them know that it's okay that you feel hurt, sad, broken, angry. It's okay that you feel. Let's figure out how we can get from here to there in that feeling.
And in our closing, we had taken our grandchildren on vacation. All of them, there were 7 of them, the Anderson and the Chris kids, and we had a good time with them. And we took them to this place called Legoland, and got them a chance to enjoy themselves, adventure out, and then we had a chance to actually walk from the hotel to the location. Lil Wayne had to put him on the shoulder because he's like, Papa, I don't walk 5 feet.
Pick me up.
He ain't saying it. All he knows that I had to pick me up. My neck is hurt now. However, but it gave me the greatest fulfillment as a grandparent to be able to take my grandkids on a vacation. We do every year and share with them. And we allow them to just have fun. And the rule is no one's gonna be fussing no one, no one's getting a whipping, unless it's whipping this one word.
Very rare.
Very rare. But then we allow them to work out their differences. So they tell me, no, you're not gonna fuss and fight about it. We're gonna discuss them about it. Use your words. Stop crying. Use your words. All that gives them what they need at this age. So when they become young adults, they be able to handle themselves.
Right.
Listen, Sunday, the wife and I will be coming together again on the stage, on the platform in the ministry. We're gonna be sharing about the mental health of adults, dealing with men, dealing with women. This series has been placed in my spirit, in my heart, and with my wife to just go as far as we need to go. So we have Christmas time, but we're gonna really be diving into mental health assistant and helping us to be in a better place.
Right.
So before I close, wife, anything you'd like to say?
I wanted to read just a couple of the responses on here.
Okay.
Pastor Delta Outley, she said that we are our children's first teacher. We are their role models. And I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Outley, that we are their first God.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to demonstrate to them a safe environment, safe places, and that they are good to go. You're right. Our role model, they look to how, when I say I want to be like somebody, that's a great compliment to hear a child say they want to be like you. That's the greatest compliment that a child can give to an adult. And I've heard many of them say that. I've heard like Trey. Yeah. Trey said he's gonna grow up and be like Uncle JR. He's gonna, he's gonna be just like Uncle JR, and that is a great compliment to Uncle JR. That means that he has demonstrated something to this young man that says that I want to be like you. In other words, you in my eye, are something good, and I want to be like that. And so that's how children should look to us, and they should want to mimic us.
And last thing Dr. Alpha said, proactive, be proactive.
Yeah, yeah. Dana says that she's speaking as a teenage mom. She grew up with her daughter. She grew up with her daughter because she was a teenage mom, and she says I was a kid with a kid, and I had a lot. I had a lot to learn. That's absolutely true. Teenage moms, there's no manual with this thing. You could have a baby at 40. Unfortunately, you're going to make a lot of mistakes because it doesn't come with a manual. But definitely when you're young, as like you, a teenage mom, with immaturity already set up in you, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And like my mother was a teenage mom. She grew up with us, fighting us for the Cracker Jack box toy, So it just is what it is. We laugh about it now, but it is that's the part that's the reality. That's why I love my mother to the utmost, because she could have walked away and not done none of it. She could have just said, well, it's too much for me and I'm not going to do it. But she hung in there, and I'm so thankful and grateful. But at the end of the day, our reality is that some of our touch was by the touch of a child that didn't know any better. And so I understand that now. And so that's why, to me, it's just important that these type of series happen, that we understand the dynamics of where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going to go with this.
And I appreciate you joining with me with this, because this is something the Lord placed in my heart at 2 in the morning. And I said, I got to do it. And I'm calling on people that are in the field, the information. My daughter, Anita, is a counselor. My daughter, Nisha.
Sure, appreciate that.
Sunday did a wonderful job.
Awesome.
And we'll be calling again. And also Father Thomas, man. He has,
know all things.
Yeah, he was there when God started.
I'm not gonna let you talk about my friend.
He is Methuselah. but he will be sharing with us as well on the time that we'll bring him up to talk with us. So Sunday, go ahead and invite family and friends, or anyone you feel that is needed this series. We're not preaching, we're teaching, as we always do, but we're going to take it to another level on dealing with mental health for the family. It's the family series. Talk about mental health. Again, we're not going to do a week service of this. This may go all the way to December. We're going to have other messages coming in, but we're really going to be chiming in on this teaching about mental health. So then, thank you for joining us here at the World Changing Internet Studio, where we sit in the Word is on and know that we love you. We're praying for you. So if you have any prayer needs or prayerful needs, please go to our website, www.church.org, and ask the prophetess, and we will definitely take your request and prayer. And also, we look for sin. Also, let's not forget, it's time to give. Giving to support the work of the ministry. What we do each and every day in World Changes is supported by your free liberal giving. Members, our investors, our stakeholders, our partners, all over, we want to thank you for your support of the ministry. Please go to the website, go online, give your gifts of giving, support the work. We appreciate it. Do things like we're doing today. Until then, may God bless you. And remember, this is the place that we say that the word is on, and we love